That's exactly. You know, that
It's still not, now instead of 2 low, it's 2 high. But there's no good. You guys think what I just got it.
Houses. Normally, so they miss the traffic and plans. Well, no. It's little.
I was gonna say they. They were quite good.
Yeah.
Remember, others, though, they got. Oh, yeah. Is he? Yeah. Not everyone.
That's why I never worry about it. It's like when you go to sit in the front, there's always a seat.
It's like when you go to the movie.
I only did that mistake once. The Boulder Theater. The bottom screen was a little big. People look really stupid.
All right, everyone, it's 7 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. All rise to the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic.
Debbie Melky.
Here.
Michael Behrman.
Here.
Kathy Macho.
Here.
Nancy Rondell.
Here.
And Matt O'Gara.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All right. Citizens comment for anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Anybody? Backus, could you come up front to the podium, please?
No, it's too.
Fine.
Back as 500 West Summit. Yes, everybody's invited to tea. I want to know what the plan is to go from 63 short-term rentals back down to 61. That it started with, that we had all the rules.
Great. Anyone else for public comment? No? Okay. Anyone online for public comment? No? All right, so we'll move on.
Is the only time public comment will be accepted is now? When
Yeah,
we
but-
get into the agenda items, will there be an option for public comment as they're
Yes.
discussed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it's not on the agenda, this would be your opportunity. But if it's an agenda item, we'll open up the floor to public comment. We have a couple categories, public comment or anything that's not on the agenda? All right, so consent agenda, any issues?
I do have a point of clarification, on the minutes. So we did receive a letter from the attorney stating that they were contending that the council's decision on changes to the code were contingent on the planning commission reviewing those changes. The minutes don't reflect that, but instead reflect that the changes to the code were final and not contingent on any action by the planning commission. So I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I guess I want this to be clear that was it your decision to make those changes final after the city planner made the changes to the code with planning commission input on specific topics at a future date?
Yes.
Yeah, they're out of the code at this point.
Yeah.
And be waiting on them later on.
So
I
could
know,
you say that a
I know.
little louder?
If people speak up, please.
If I was gonna say, I know I need to speak up. I was agreeing with Victor that that is what was decided on at the last meeting. Was that,
Victor?
So the question was it indeed the council's decision to make their changes to the code final after the city planner updated the code to reflect those changes? Then with planning commission input or review of certain topics after adoption of the code.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
correct, yes.
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 That's how it stayed in the minutes. So before you vote on the minutes, I want to make sure that's clear.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So what authority will the planning commission have after you make the changes permanent to alter those changes? You're consulting them after you adopt the changes.
So the planning commission has been consulted through the process, but from my understanding, the council took out a provision on triplexes in the RW district, and we took that out of the code, and then in the future, they wanted the planning commission to revisit it. And the planning commission may bring it back to the council or not.
That, the outdoor display of goods
For the DDA.
for the DDA.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
so I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
David Melky.
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Matt McGarrett.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great. Good. On to the TIF capture.
All right, so this TIF capture agreement, it's kind of been in the works for about 6 or 7 years now. So since 2018, the city and the county had a disagreement over whether the Harbor Springs DDA could capture or collect the TIF money, which is tax increment financing funds from county properties, or for county taxes that they would normally receive in properties in the downtown district. So for those that aren't clear on what a TIF is, it's a, a state authorized mechanism that allows DDAs to capture additional taxes from the increased value of properties beginning in a base year. The DDA's base year was 2014. The taxes, the additional taxes the DDA can collect are from the cities, taxes, the counties, schools, and other entities like the cemetery. So, and just that's basically what a TIF is. It's more complex, but in summary, that's what it is. So, the county and city has disagreed whether the DDA could legally capture those funds. Since 2018, it's a long history, but basically there was some disagreement to the law and the facts about what the city could do and what the county was able to do. I've negotiated with 3 county administrators now since 2019, alongside Jim Raymer, who's been involved, and other DDA directors, Marvin Luce before Becky arrived. We met with the county administrators. So we now finally have an agreement that the DDA approved on May 8th. The county commissioners approved it on May 16th, I believe, and now it's up to council for final approval. The main points of the agreement are that the DDA will capture 50% of the county's tax revenue. County will retain 50%. We will capture 50%. Then the capture will begin in 2025 and will last through 2038. The agreement is silent as to what happens after 2038. There was no agreement to what to do after that point, but so for the period 2025 through 2038, which is when the TIF plan and the downtown plan need to be renewed, that is for how long we get that 50% capture. The DDA can only use county tax dollars for improvement projects that are noted in the downtown development plan, and that's as an appendix in the agreement. And so those are like more like infrastructure projects. And that was one of the issues the county had, or some certain county commissioners had from the process, what they didn't want it to be spent on services. But they wanted to spend the money to be spent more on infrastructure projects. And then any unused county monies at the expiration of the agreement would be returned to the county if there are any unused monies. So the agreement acknowledges that there are differences between the cities and counties' positions. They hasn't resolved those positions. But I think there's a mutual recognition from the city, DDA, and the county that it's best to move forward in a way that was, and this is really a true compromise. There's give and take on both sides, and there's a lot of work, but so it's not perfect for either party, but I think it's probably the best we're gonna get at this point. And well, we've missed out on this capture for about 6, 7 years now, so I think it's good to have that money coming in starting next year. So as I mentioned, the county and the DDA approved this, and what we need is for the council to review and discuss the agreement, and if so inclined, to approve it.
Any public comment on the TIF capture? Yes.
Good afternoon, my name is James Cassidy. I wonder if you could please tell us, what is the geographic boundaries of the Tiffin district? In other words, the DDA is mostly focused on the 3 or 4 blocks of the downtown area. But is the Tiffin district capturing incremental tax increases on real estate behind the districts or outside the districts throughout the rest of the town? Or is it just on those commercial properties in the Tiffin district?
It's just in the TIF district, the downtown district, the DDA.
So that does not include any other properties other than the businesses in that area?
I don't think, does it include residential?
It includes all properties, residential and commercial, that are within the DDA boundaries.
What are those boundaries for?
We have the map on the website, but essentially it's if you go the width of the central business district, but you also include the waterfront properties to the south of it and the properties on the north side of Third Street as well. That's essentially the boundaries. If you want a better idea of it, though, we do have that information online, or if you want to email me, I'll send you a copy.
Thank you for that. So just to make it understood and clear, that the residential dwellings in the downtown area, north up to the back of Third Street there, and down to the water's edge are gonna have a portion of their next tax increase captured and spent for infrastructure to support the downtown. Thank you.
Any other public comment on the TIF? Conversation at the table?
What is the projected capture for the first year, 2025? Do we, know,
42 to 47,000.
pardon?
It would be 42 to 47,000 dollars.
That is projected.
And that's just the county's portion.
Yes, yes, I understand.
These TIFs are subject to ups and downs in the market. I
Yeah.
mean, as a market, I mean, when we started out, we had a negative capture. So as property values go down, so will the TIF capture.
Yeah, it's been a long road. We got Victor and Jim and Kathy, DDA people have been working on this for a long time. I didn't think they ever got it done. They proved me wrong, but I'm glad they did. I think it'll be a benefit for the downtown.
I think it's great to see this resolved after all this time. I know it wasn't all we hoped for, but that's what compromise is. So this is a way to get it moving and get money to come in the future. So it's a good idea. I'm good with that. Okay, good.
And I'm pleased that the county commissioners thought so too and approved that.
There's no more comment. I'll make a motion that we approve the TIF documents.
I'll second.
Pat O'Gara,
Yes.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
and Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to these two. It's been an extraordinary amount of time for many years, made it happen.
All right, item 3B, this is the presentation of the final building plans. It's basically just to show council the details of the harbor master building and to get your authorization to proceed with the bidding. This has gone through Harbor Commission and the Planning Commission last year, and then we just recently went to the Harbor Commission for an update, just to show them the details that you're gonna be seeing today. Mark Bidet, the architect for the project, is just gonna briefly go through some of the project highlights and the bidding highlights. We are hoping that if we do get bids, that this project will start in mid-September and finish sometime in mid to late spring. There's a lot of factors that can go into play for that, but one of the things that's not mentioned here, but well, a couple of things. One thing that's not mentioned is that the harbor master building, if the construction starts in mid-September, that part of that parking lot in the building, the restrooms will be closed from the date of the construction through it finishes. So there'll be a little inconvenience for boaters that are using the building. They're still there in September and October, and for the public who relies on those bathrooms. So in the future, we might have to, if this project gets going, then to think about solutions for bathrooms or something like that. And most of the bathrooms are closed during the winter except for those harbor master building bathrooms. So we'll have to think about something there. And part of the parking lot, of course, will be inaccessible too. And then another part of this conversation for when we do get bids back, if council wants us to proceed, is how are we going to pay for this project? We have a substantial amount of money in the waterfront fund, but we just don't know how much money the project's going to cost yet. We had anticipated for it to cost over $600,000. There was a ballpark figure, given what we knew, what needed to happen to the building. It'll probably cost more than that, but that's why we put a lot of alternates in the project. I think there's at least 3 or 4 alternates, so that way we can splice those things out if the costs get too high. So we'd have to decide, is the waterfront going to fully pay for it? Is there capacity for the general fund to pay for it as well? So that's a future conversation. We need to wait for the bids to come back first, but I just wanted to be on before we have this discussion. So Mark, I have the plans up, so if you want to take it away.
Well, the timeline for the project, if you choose to approve it going out for bid, bids will go out Wednesday, May 22nd. There's going to be a pre-bid site tour on June 3rd for the contractors as well for the bidders. The bid due date is June 21st. The conditional award date is July 15th. I think that coordinates with your meeting, so you have time to look at it and decide what you want to do. Construction that Victor mentioned is going to start September 9th, and required completion would be May 15th. The process, the project itself, as you know, the roof is coming off, a new roof is going on, actually going to be a little bit lower than the existing hip roof that's on there. That allows us to get all the mechanicals and electrical throughout the building. So everything gets redone inside the building. The existing men's and women's bathrooms become a laundry room and mechanical room respectively. There's an addition of a public bathroom for men and women that's going on the north side of the building. And there's a fair amount of site work that has to be done, hooking up existing sanitary, electrical, stormwater to the utilities are mostly underneath the parking lot. So the parking lot's gonna get chopped up pretty badly. And we have an alternate to help work with that a little bit. It's designed so that the harbor master has control of the office space, at the same time allowing boaters to access the shower rooms and the laundry facility without going through the office. And they can also come in from the back. There'll be combination locks on the boater doors, and then standard key locks on other secured areas. The alternates that Victor mentioned, right now we have it set up, since the city is its own utility, that everything is electrical. Everything's powered by electricity, no natural gas. It's probably gonna cost a little bit more money, so that's one of our alternates, is that they give us a price, probably a deduct, to use natural gas instead of all electrical. Second alternate is to, right now, we plan on redoing the boaters' bathrooms and showers completely, new pictures, new wall tile, really bring it up to the same level as the new public bathrooms. And so that's an alternate, would be a deduct because we wouldn't be doing that work. The third alternate is to, there's a fair amount of sidewalks that have to be done. If you go back to the site plan, please. We're going to put new sidewalks in from here, just where this junction comes together, all the way around, because all these will get, taken out during the construction process. The new sidewalks that come up from the parking lot come up along the side here. We bike parking here. This is wide enough and everything that vehicles can still access the docks down here, and we go all the way down to the existing asphalt, getting rid of all the old concrete. And now there's a sidewalk that comes up to the entry door, and we won't have steps, but just a nice sidewalk that goes up to that. It's not considered a ramp because it's less than 5% slope. The portion that you see that's a little bit is shaded, well, oh, this is an old drawing. Where the trucks will go is going to be an 8-inch concrete slab with special reinforcing in it so that big equipment can drive on it and won't break it all up. Everything else will be a standard 4-inch concrete slab, but we want to have it so that we have what's going to be bid is a light exposed aggregate finish on all of it. And that does cost a little bit more money, so the ultimate would be just standard concrete, fiberglass reinforced, room finished, standard sidewalks that you see everywhere in town. So we're going to dress it up just a little bit, but we'll find out how much that costs and you can decide whether you want to do it or not. And the fourth alternate would be, as I said before, the utilities are all out here and around here. So this is all going to get chopped up. We even have a water supply that comes all the way down here. It comes into the building. So the asphalt will be chopped out. So all the trenching can be done. And then it's going to be bid to just patch it back in. And the whole thing restriped. I'm going to ask the contractors to provide a cost to redo the entire parking lot, the Harbor Master parking lot, which breaks right here. And it's shown on a more updated drawing now. So all this parking lot, we know what it costs to redo that so that the parking lot looks as fresh and as nice as the new building will. But I know that's dependent upon other things that you guys may have going on with the waterfront and all that stuff, whether you want to spend that money now or not. Any questions? Yes.
As I may have mentioned before, my only concern is on the north elevation, which is where the trash and the recycle barrels are. That's this page, the bottom one.
Yeah, right here.
And the height of that is just to the top of the
The top of
barrels?
the recycling containers.
Okay.
So
Okay.
people can reach them easily. And this is something that we discussed at the Harbor Commission meeting. Because I had it up higher, they thought that maybe it should be a little bit lower so it's easy to access them. But we can look at that. We'll have an opportunity during construction where we can, if we need to alter the height of this somewhat or create a different enclosure, we can do that at that time. We'll have opportunities to do that and sort of look at the project and see if there's other opportunities where we can improve it.
I mean, I like the all the elevations. I think they really look nice and it's really an improvement. And my only issue with that was, so when I go and I park my car there, I'm looking at the trash barrels. And that's why I was curious about that, was just how that will look, but okay. It makes more sense there than any place else, though, I think.
Yeah, that's why it's there. It's the best location for it.
Okay.
But whether we create something where you actually like walk into an enclosure and do the recycling and then close the gate after yourself, I mean, that's a possibility too. Just come down to the capacity of the recycling containers and how much do you want there? And how much you want to encourage the recycling too, to be quite candid.
Yes.
Yeah, so this has been, I think, a longer process than the tip capture. So it's nice to see it get done. Yeah. As long as I've been in Harbor Springs. So it'll be nice to have hopefully have a new harbor master builder.
And the bidding environment is pretty positive right now. I've been talking to some contractors I know, commercial guys, and they have openings for the fall. And some pricing is stabilized, not going crazy like it was for the past few years. So this might be a really good time. So I'm optimistic with the pricing.
So you're better.
Okay.
So it definitely makes sense to send it out for bid. I think that's what we have to decide tonight.
We don't know where to make cuts or anything until we get a price, so. I guess we should do any public comment on our new harbor master building? Mr. Patton?
Thank you. Question, square footage of the new building versus the existing and confirming
Can you
those are
stand
still
up and
one-story
pronounce his
structure.
name?
It's a one-story structure. I cannot tell you at the moment what the square footages are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you ask that, Jeff?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know
It's
your name.
Tim
Stand
Patton
up
from
and say
Bacon.
Tim,
your address.
251 East Bay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, Patrick Kenny, 134 Bay Street. Mark, everyone in this room knows that you sit on the planning commission board. How in the world is it possible for you to ethically be contracted for this job? It's a $600,000 job. How is it that you sitting on the planning commission could be, I want this just noted for the record, if it's not an actual conflict of interest, it is clearly a conflict of interest in appearance. I'm not going to respond to that. I don't want your response. It's insulting.
We'd like to hear from the city council's response. Rick de Blasio, 636 Harris.
thank you. Any other public comment? Karen?
I want to talk about, my name is Karen Ockfield, Birchwood. So when the boats come in and they have all their trash, do we have trash receptacles for them, or is this going to be the only trash available?
The trash will be the same size dumpster that's there now. It fits in right underneath the building, right here underneath the roof line. It's behind the taller gates that are just to the right of the recycling.
And a truck, the trash guy can come drive right up next to it.
Yes, it's designed so it's the height of the trash area is the same as the parking lot. So they open the gates and you roll it right out and then the truck can lift it up and dump it.
Any other public comment? Table?
No?
No? Entertain a motion?
You just need a motion to go out for bids?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I move that we go ahead and put out for bids for the harbor master building to see how they come in based on our budget.
I'll second.
Nancy Rondell.
Yes.
Matt Bagheera.
Yes.
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Michael Behrman.
Yes.
And Kathy Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, next topic, street music, State Street closure discussion. On April 15th, council approved the street music event, with the exception for the closure of State Street between Bay and Main. As you can see, on the map here, that's normally where State Street is closed for street music. Pending discussion and approval, by council at a later date. So this year, as typically, street music is on Thursdays between 6 and 8:30 p.m. It's going to be from June 27th through August 22nd this year on most Thursdays. In June of 2020, the Planning Commission officially recommended the city not close State Street or other public streets on a regular basis to pedestrian traffic, but council at that time decided to close State Street during street music for several reasons. One was it was to relocate the musicians from the sidewalk and instead to the street, so they're not blocking pedestrian flow on the sidewalks. Trial the idea of creating more outdoor space, social spaces in city streets, and also to allow social distancing during COVID while people can enjoy the event. So there was a few reasons for that. And the final motions there. The motion stipulated the street closure will be subject to Chief Knight's review on traffic impacts, and also stipulated the city would not be providing tables and chairs, but will allow citizens to bring their own tables and chairs during the closure period. So there was, this idea that there'd be more outdoor space on the street. Pedestrians can walk through, they could listen to music, they could bring their chairs and listen to music on the street. So some recent concerns brought up about it being closed were that on some Thursdays, only few pedestrians gather to listen to the music on the street. There's, some musicians draw a larger crowd than others, so that was one concern. There's loss of about 16 parking spaces downtown, cuts off the connection between Bay and Main, and there are no longer the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. So those were some of the concerns we've heard. The city's police department does spend some time putting up signage and barricades to close the street, but it's really no different than, and Josh probably can confirm, than other events that we do when we need to close streets and try to get cars moved for events. So I don't know, Josh.
Yeah, the best example would be the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And over time, people have probably noticed that it's pretty smooth. We put the signs out overnight. Most of the vehicles are gone during that time frame when it's closed for a 3-4 hour period. And then Chief and I wanted me to convey to the board that we support you either way. If you decide not to, or if you decide that you want to continue doing it, then we'll make it work for you.
And so aside from those initial discussions and the recent concerns, I don't recall receiving any feedback at City Hall in the past few years about the closure, either, pro or against it. It's just kind of been status quo. So, yeah, that's really where we're at. So I guess at this point, it's really for council to discuss whether or not they want to continue keeping State Street closed for street music, or open it back up, or maybe find some sort of, alternate solution. And there are members of the chamber here, and Kathy,
And Karen.
and Karen, oh yeah,
Chamber Foundation.
Jerry Association. Like.
Okay, I guess any public comment on the street closure? Aaron? No?
Karen Ockfield, Bridgewood. The only reason that I think it should stay open, more than just one reason, is that our roads are so odd at that end of town. We get traffic going down there, get lost over by the Little Harbor Club, a little alleyway. We have a lot of one-way streets, and I think that having the State Street open allows people that are driving into our town to get to the real heart of our town to enjoy street music. So for myself, knowing the streets as well as I do, I'd like to see that it stays open.
Anyone else?
Liz Aaron's, 5200 Westlake. I am on the Harbor Springs Foundation Board. We're the volunteers that ask for money for the things we love, for 4th of July fireworks, for street music, and for the car festival. So these are 3 events that we work on year round as volunteers. And we're separate from the chamber, but partners with the chamber. So, it's how many nights? 4, 6 nights. It's something that we do. I agree, Karen, that it definitely does change how necessarily we can get around in town, but we don't have a problem with doing it on 4th of July. We shut things down. We don't have a problem. The farmer's market is a perfect example of it. It's so much safer. It is an area that there is a safe spot because it's grandparents and grandkids that are out there, families that are out there. So on the work that we do, Karen actually and Kathy do phenomenal. They're out there walking the street, seeing what people are doing. During COVID, we separated people. It was crazy. So as volunteers serving the public, we get the feedback that people really like that. And so that's what we're asking today.
Kathy?
I do have a correction. We did, per Matt's suggestion, we started closing state before COVID. Matt, at a council meeting when we came to request, said, why don't we try it? And it's because it has worked so well that we love it. It was a great idea. You know, the other restaurants on the block would like to have this continue. It's a family, community, festive setting, with people bringing their chairs. We'd like to move some of the children's activities, the face painting, to the end of the street up by the intersection, so that we don't have kids in a street, other spots in town. It's just safer there. Sure, there's 16 spots going away for a couple of hours, but hopefully we're bringing so much business downtown with all the people that we're bringing, both for that night and for other nights. It's well worth it for all of you downtown.
These ladies.
Heard it?
Perfect, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen?
I wrote a letter and being part of the Chamber Foundation Board, I pay the musicians, I see that they're set up properly, that there's no issues going on that evening. It's worked so well for us. And just to see the family, the residents, the people bring their lawn chairs to State Street, to the park, all over the area. It's wonderful. It's just a unique opportunity for our city. And it just shows how much we enjoy entertaining others as, you know, they come to us. So they bring money into our city. They enjoy what's going on. And I think it's just a fabulous way of entertaining and having people come together on a Thursday evening for a couple of hours.
There's a lot of back-end work that we have to do to place the musicians. So we typically have 4 sets of musicians and the kids' activities on each Thursday night. We have to be careful we don't place them where they sound each other, so we've got to space them apart. And electricity is a concern. We need to make sure that I know where every electrical outlet downtown is, because that's where we place them. So we can't move them to like the Zorn Park because there's no power. There are spots in town that might look great, like under a couple of stores have some awning, but there's no power. So we had to do a lot of working. Blitzfest is our partner with us. They do all the scheduling. We do all the groundwork to make sure we have a good mix of musicians each Thursday night and that they're placed in settings where the people get the most enjoyment.
Okay. Any other public comment? I guess I'll start. I was the one who suggested that we close State Street, and I was hoping that it would turn into a big party out there. Typically, there's the musician and a half a dozen people. There's not people with chairs, there's not families and kids on a consistent basis. I think there was a headline band, Jelly Rolls wants to play on State Street, it'd be fantastic. You'd have 300 people out there, it'd be a real party. And that would be worth closing the road down. Because I own the New York, I'm gonna recuse myself from this vote per Bonnie's request because she thinks I have a conflict of interest. So. Anyone else at the table, or you guys have at it?
I'm wondering if there can be a compromise, maybe. Not yes or no, not 0 or 6, but maybe there's 3 that. We can reasonably predict that there's gonna be a larger crowd. That might attract more families. Closing, I think, Ms. Osfield, made a good point about, traffic, there's so many one-way streets going, running north and south. on that part of town, it is, you know, it does pose a little bit of a problem. But yet I can understand the safety concerns and how cool it is to have. So I'm wondering, you know, historically, can we look back at any, maybe there's some musicians or bands that are coming that did draw a big crowd? Or that we think because of maybe they're gonna attract more families that we might, you know, put there on 3 nights as opposed to 6, so that we're not closing 6 nights during the summer, but maybe 3 or 2 or 4 or somewhere in the middle. Is there a room for compromise?
Already you are only being asked to close for 6 nights of our 9.
Oh, yes.
So we're looking at 2/3 of the lineup. Yes, we could work with BlissFest to make sure we have a little bigger action there. That's not a problem. We can ask them that, but we are not asking for all 9 weeks.
I understand, but the 6, maybe compromising a little bit from there. I don't know. I'm just throwing
It
that
would
out
be
there.
What we don't want is to confuse the people coming down, that 1 week it's closed and 1 week it's open.
If it was closed, what would be an alternate location
Right
that,
in front of New York. That's where
okay,
we've been for years.
so, I mean, it would be in that same general area.
It's just the safe, I have a concern about safety there. We have people Kyle says we're okay there, but it worries me when you've got a good band there that people are standing on the outside of parked cars to watch it,
Okay.
and that does occur. And it does make the sidewalks quite more crowded as they move to listen to that group as well as to get to the waterfront and then back up to Gilmont's.
So I will also recuse myself from the vote, but I do have a couple things. So I went back through and looked at all of the street music locations that were posted on Facebook in the past, and there are 14 locations other than in the middle of State Street. And most of last summer, it was a single musician. It wasn't a band. And also it was suggested in June of 2020, which is when COVID was going on. It didn't happen prior to that. So I guess those are my points, is that there are 14 other locations around town that they've put people before.
Where are they?
No way.
Where are the other 14?
I don't know. I sent Victor a list a while ago, but I went through your Facebook page and I counted 14 other locations.
There's not 14
Not
electrical
possible.
outlets downtown.
Okay.
Not possible.
So
What? Higher than, thanks.
So what if, I have a concern with the safety, with it open part of the time and closed part of the time, in terms of kids. They get used to what they get used to downtown when they go down. I guess my question would be, is there some way to put a little bit more activity there to make it worthwhile? Closing it, the balloon, Janya, the balloon person, so the musics aren't competing, but maybe face painting and Janya and 3-piece band, or that's up to you guys. But there are some things that with music wouldn't compete that you guys do that are a big attraction, especially the kids. Janya certainly is the magic lady with the balloons, and that's where a lot of the kids hang out. So that's my thought. I'm concerned about safety when we've got a program going on and the street has cars going.
But they aren't closing it for 3 of the weeks already, so like, you can't claim that they're
Well-
gonna get used to it if it's not closed all 9.
I can't speak to the schedule of street music. I don't know what the schedule is.
Not the first
but,
grade.
You know, I don't know. I just think that's what I'm.
I think we need to give people more credit when there's barricades in front of a street and there's a band in the middle of the street. I think that I would hope that, I'm not just letting like kids run in the middle of the street when there's no barricades and traffic moving there and the band is off on the sidewalk. I would hope. But,
I have found when that was the case, before, we started putting the barricades up, I found that people were standing in the street, in between the cars and everything. So to me, that's a danger to the city, to us, everybody. I mean, I just like the fact that barricades are up and people can walk in the street, bring their chairs. They're not blocking the sidewalks and stuff like that. And either the band or the musician.
On the 3 nights that it is that you're not having it, on State Street, is it going to be in front of the New
No,
York? Or is it in another?
there's 3 Thursdays. The first Thursday, we don't have music anywhere but the waterfront
Okay,
to work with the Blessing of the Fleet. So we focus all efforts on that, all of us collectively
sense.
for the waterfront. This year, the July 4th is on a Thursday. So we're not having,
Makes
we're not
sense.
gonna close the street when people are out and about. And we also don't close for the car festival night. We do both these events. Those are 2 of our events. We put them together on that Thursday to make it very vibrant downtown. But we don't close State Street on that night because cars leave town and have to move around. So they're, on that particular night, the church has given us permission to put music in front of them where we have electricity. That's the
So-
only time there's a movement of music.
Nancy's concern then would be alleviated since it wouldn't cause confusion if it's on the 6 nights because
Yeah.
there's not, okay. I'm wondering, do we look at it, this year and let it go and like really critically analyze, how many people are there and what kind of activity is there?
We can do that.
I don't know,
It's not easy for us to do.
I don't know,
I just have one other thought, because I was thinking the same way. Is there a way we can, negotiate, work this out somehow? Because I have to admit, there have been times when I've been down there when there was not a soul at the bottom of State Street except the musician. But is it necessary? Do you have to close the whole street? Can you is it possible to have, I don't know, 4 parking
That's
spaces?
Josh.
Does that still not resolve the safety concern because you've still got traffic?
I think that would, I would be concerned as far as vehicles still coming down to a certain.
Okay.
Clarify that.
Okay,
I would say if you're gonna do it, it's either all or nothing.
all or nothing.
Is it an option just not to put a musician down there? Just don't use State Street at all? I mean, is that an option if it's such a point of contention about closing it, not closing it? What if you don't put a musician down?
Well, if we bring ourselves back to just 3 sets of musicians, I think we weaken the evening significantly, and I don't want to lose the crowd. We've been very, very lucky to have the community support this financially. And for those who've already given to us, we've already promised them this. We can't put them someplace else. There's just not another spot with power and safety that would draw a crowd.
Well, I guess my suggestion would be to put more activity there then for this summer.
We'd love that.
And see if the balloon lady or whoever else, all the other ones, and see if it doesn't justify keeping it closed. If it doesn't, if it ends up not being busy at all, again, then either don't close it or don't put a musician down there.
But in a
One of the
more
two.
timely,
Yeah,
for planning's sake as
Yeah.
well.
we start contracting with
Okay.
musicians in January.
So we need to evaluate it in September, or October, see how it worked. That would be my
That was,
suggestion.
my point, and I understand this was relatively short notice too, and I think that has to be taken into account. And it sounds like, going for a number between 0 and 6, isn't an option, because of the confusion and.
You all are welcome to sit in on our planning meetings.
I would-
There's a lot of moving parts.
How long do they last?
Not that long.
I'd like to make a motion if we're done. Go ahead,
No, I
Pat.
was
Do you
just
have
gonna
something?
ask, do you have a count of how many people attend street music?
No, but we can try that this year. I mean, I'm on the street I walk the streets just with Karen every Thursday night. We check it all out. We check every
Okay.
crowd. You know, there are some times that you can just see it moving. If it's a little sprinkle in the air, we're a rain or shine event.
Right,
And some lights, some nights are light if it's not a nice evening.
right.
But we'd be more than happy to take a stab at that.
I
It's a
mean,
great idea.
I guess that's part of, I mean, I've always liked the idea and I've enjoyed listening to it when I'm downtown, but I'm not convinced when we talk about what it does for businesses downtown, when essentially the only thing that's open at that time of night is, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, restaurants and ice cream store. And I love going down and getting ice cream and listening to music. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I don't see it as necessarily helping the rest of the businesses down
Not for
there.
that night, but we do believe there's a rollover to the next day or the next weekend.
And a few have started staying open. Finishing Touch stays open, 119 Studio stays open.
Harbor stays.
Yeah, so there are, yeah. So there
Okay.
are businesses,
Wait,
not
sorry.
everybody. I mean, and it's not as many as maybe you would like or hope.
Or we
Yeah,
would like.
there are some very specifically that do stay open
Okay,
for the purpose of Thursday night.
okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Are we good up here? Cause I'll make a motion if we are. Are we?
Motion, I don't know.
Okay, let's see
All right.
if I can do all this. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and close State Street as per planned, but with the understanding that some other entertainment will be moved that direction. And that, we have them evaluate how many folks really are down there and come back to us in the fall and make a decision what we're gonna do the following year, when we have some numbers to look at. That's a long motion.
I second.
That was a long motion, so.
Got it.
Got it? Okay.
Kathy Macho,
Yes,
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Matt McGura,
She's
Recused.
oh, and Nancy Randall, and Malcolm Hughes. We still have a motion carried.
Welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Fill it out. I'm gonna show up.
All right, item D, the Ford Park temporary improvements at the May Harbor Commission meeting. The commission recommended 2 temporary changes or short-term fixes to alleviate congestion and some safety concerns at Ford Park. The first was to add a gravel space southeast of the last paved trailer parking space. So right here is the last paved trailer parking space, and they would like to change that, turn that into a loading and unloading zone for, well, kayakers. So they were thinking about this space right here. So that's just southeast of the last trailer parking spot. So they would wanted to add some gravel there, so vehicles could pull over, unload their kayak, load their kayak back on, and then drive off. The second proposed change is to widen the road or the driveway here that leads to the launch ramp, and by either 4, 6 or 8 feet. I did talk to Lucas, the DPW director, Lucas Vanderzee, and he doesn't recommend going forward with the putting gravel southeast of that lot because there's a drain there, and he doesn't. The drain is not built to, it's not traffic rated, not built to the standards to have vehicles drive over it. And he was worried about that drain collapsing.
point where that is.
It's basically this dot right here in this box.
Which?
Oh,
Oh, got it. Now I can
Right
see
there,
it.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
There's a drain right there, that little circle. And so that's the concern he has. If we were to move the gravel area further east, it would cause more interference with people driving around here. So his solution was to, and this hasn't been vetted through the Harbor Commission, I think before, a couple of years ago, it was discussed, but they didn't want to lose a space, was to stripe, now that we have the striping equipment, to stripe off this last lane here, this last parking spot, and put a 10-minute parking or loading, unloading sign, so kayakers can pull out there and unload and load.
And that would be where? And that same,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see right here, but it's this, there's a trailer parking spot right here about.
okay.
So that's that first issue. The second one is, we just don't, the Harbor Commission wanted to try to get both of these done for the summer, but kind of figure the second option of widening that lane would probably not be able to happen this summer, so hopefully we do in the fall. We think, we would estimate it's gonna cost about $40,000 or more, depending on how wide it's going to be. So Lucas said he's gonna get some cost estimates to pave that north side, both for 4 feet, 6 feet, and 8 feet wide, just to see there. So we won't be able to get that one done here before the summer, so we'll go forward with it in the fall. So I guess, you know, the Harbor Commission is also considering some long-term improvements to Ford Park, if they make sense. You know, they gotta go through the Harbor Master Building renovations first, and then see where we're at, you know, financially with the waterfront fund. But down the road, 4 or 5 years, they're hoping they can have a complete redo of the circulation at Ford Park and the parking at Ford Park. Of course, they're just working on conceptual plans. There's nothing concrete. They're still talking back and forth with that. So at this point, the Harbor Commission didn't recommend using that last spot. We could go back to the Harbor Commission in June, or council can try it out right now and then go back to Harbor Commission and get their input afterwards. I don't think, you know, it gets busier right after Memorial Day is when it starts to pick up there. But we do have an increased amount of kayak users out down there, so there is more of a growing need for a loading and unloading space. So I guess at this point is wanted to review whether or not to go forward with using that parking space or kick it back to the Harbor Commission, their input on that, or then the second one is to, you know, approve Lucas going out to get some cost estimates for widening that part of the road.
Public comment on Ford Park? Mr. Hayden.
Launched a boat from there today and retrieved a boat from there today. Widening that lane was a great idea, because it's too narrow with bigger boats now to get past easily.
They need your name and address for the record.
Wayne Avis, 476 4th Street.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I'm Mary Siegel, 2010 South Lakeford Drive. I would agree with that, especially with widening that, because you've got people that are having trouble getting their boats, but this gets really congested, getting their boats in and out of the ramp. Some are better than others. You've got other. And there can be a huge backlog. So if you can get around somebody that's having a little issue, that might be keep things moving along. The other idea would be that if it was wider, that people that are undoing their kayaks could probably stay on one side of the street if they're taking their kayak fast, and then move along and still let other people pass them. But I don't think it would cost a lot of money to take that last parking spot and stripe it differently. I mean, it could be a quick fix and just see how it goes. It'd be a cost of a sign and some paint. So that might be something you want to just try, see if it works.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm not opposed to losing a parking spot for the kayak drop off. It's a quick fix. Actually, we'll have to wait and see what it costs to pave the parking lot and widen that. So I don't think that's an issue for tonight. Well, I guess it is. We have to.
Authorizing to get cost estimates.
I think, yeah, at this point, when the Harbor Commission brought that up at the last meeting, some discussion as to whether it was really early enough to think about it this year. So that's my concern. If Lucas says not, then I don't see how we can do the repaving or whatever.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't happen until before next season. And it depends on the cost estimates.
I think restriping the parking space makes good sense.
I think striking the parking space is great, solid, easy solve. Because people do stop there and unload their kayaks, because that's the only place you can do that. I think the other is a much bigger project.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine for Lucas to go get some bids, but I know we're talking about a much bigger redo than that. So I think we need to look at the bigger picture too. Pardon me?
The grand scheme.
Yeah,
and
well, I think
decide
we need a little bit better idea, so we're not just spending that and then tearing it up.
Piecemealing it.
Yeah. Yeah, but striping that space is, we can do it ourselves. No, so I think that makes sense.
Quickly,
One other thought is, and I don't know if this is possible with all the legal, but because we're doing the harbor master building and we're doing paving, could we work a deal out, since you're gonna have paving equipment down there already, to do this at the same time, if you could figure that into the budget?
probably not, but Lucas will check on that.
Yeah,
We've done that, we do that quite often, for example, Judd Hill, the paving going on there, we use them to pave Third Street and State Street, because they finished up Judd Hill, so then they came down and tagged on that, when we had the water leak on Third and State Street, so if it works, it coincides, we will do that,
You know,
yeah.
maybe cost savings or whatever.
There usually is a cost savings for staging, so it's. But it really depends on what kind of work they need to do underneath, and that's really where there's drains and some electrical underneath there and other.
Yeah, and I would assume that paving in Judd Hill is gonna happen quickly, soon.
It should be reopened soon.
Yeah.
So I agree with painting the one parking spot, and also I think that if we're gonna redo the whole park, I would hate to spend a bunch of money temporarily fixing it if we're gonna redo the whole park. It's a lot of money, so.
So would you prefer to see a more permanent plan first from the?
I mean, I'm okay with Lucas finding out how much this could cost, but I think at the end of the day, I think a permanent fix is better.
I'd rather see if it's, I don't know, I think you estimated maybe $40,000. I'd like to see someone work down at the harbor master's office directing, or at the boat launch directing traffic. I think the money would be better spent. Well, Bob, you do that. Right. I think that would help immensely. You know, help the people who don't know how to launch their boats, keep the traffic flowing.
Well, part of the issue they talked about the Harbor Commission is that, but it's also that the trailers and the boats, as mentioned earlier, are getting so much bigger than they were previously, so that causes some congestion and some. Bob can't teach them how to drive.
yeah, I don't feel like authorizing any more money out of the waterfront fund until we have an idea what the harbor master building is really gonna cost.
So what I'm hearing is we can get some cost estimates and also go ahead with the painting of the striping of the last spot.
Yeah.
I think consensus votes.
I just need a motion from somebody for that.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
Need to do a motion? I think we should approve the striping of the last trailer spot on the southeast, I think it is, south part of the park, the kayak, for 10-minute loading, unloading, and authorize Lucas to get estimates on the other.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Southwest, I said southeast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Southwest.
Yeah, I was saying southeast of the last.
No, I get.
The spot chosen by the harbor commission.
Well,
Yeah.
Sorry. The spot chosen by the.
By the launch for the kayaks, that's where it makes sense.
All right, item 3 is the proposed zoning ordinance, zoning code and ordinance 439. The latest draft of zoning code is on the website. Council members, you all have the latest draft. The latest draft includes the changes that you requested at the last meeting. Our planner, John Michelangeli, made those changes. It also includes a correction that we noticed was that on page 104, in section 10.2.4, it listed that planned developments were allowed in 5 different districts or 6 different districts, RN, RW, RM, CBD, B1 and M1. The table of uses just didn't show that they were allowed in the commercial district, so it was just didn't make its way into the table. So what I did was added that, I had John add that permitted use symbol in the table to correspond with what it said in the text. So when you approve this code that's in front of you, just want to make it clear that you're also approving that change as well. And if you're okay with that change, if you're not okay with that change, or if you have more questions about it, you can ask them. So all those changes are in the code and in the version you have in front of you and online. We did receive several public comments. I responded to some of them. We also had a concern about, or some comment about the outdoor display of goods. Some business owners and residents, rely on the outdoor display of goods for their businesses, and some residents put in comments saying that they appreciated the outdoor displays. And so, while they understood that, council, there's good reasons for why council is wanting to take out the outdoor display of goods, such as causing clutter and congestion on the sidewalks. Some sidewalks are narrower than others in parts of town, and our ordinance did not distinguish between outdoor displays on public, private property and private property. So those that have private property may have more space to do things, as opposed to people who are using public property to have their display of goods. So they felt that they didn't have enough time to come up with a proposed solution or some feedback for council. So I discussed this with our zoning administrator, Jeff Grimm, our DDA director, Becky Goodman, and city attorney, Jim Raymer. If council could still go ahead with keeping it out of the proposed code if they want to, and then we could adopt an administrative ordinance next meeting or at a future meeting date to temporarily allow outdoor displays of goods for the summertime, while the DDA and the planning commission work on a solution to bring to the council. So that would be something we decide tonight. We would come back with administrative ordinance at a future meeting date, probably June 3rd. We don't regularly do administrative ordinances, but we probably do 1 or 2 a year, often for similar situations where we want to temporarily allow something or not allow something while the planning commission or another board council works on finding a solution. So that is what I have. We do have, of course, the zoning code for the council. If you have any more discussion on it, you could, if there are more changes you want to make, or you could decide if there are no changes, you could approve the zoning code and also adopt ordinance 439. If there are changes, we could go back to the city planner to make those changes. So I'll leave it to you, Mayor.
Can we break it into 2? The administrative ordinance?
Sure.
And then do the zoning code?
For the administrative, yeah, the outdoor display of goods, yeah, you can do that. That might be easy. Well, I think what he's saying is that to have that discussion
tonight.
of bringing the administrative ordinance at a future meeting, if that's something you want us to do. That's what you would be deciding tonight, if you want us to bring you an administrative ordinance on that.
I wasn't sure I understood it.
I probably could do that first.
Yeah, let's do that. That's the easier one to tackle. Okay. Any public comment on outdoor display of goods?
I have. Gail Brown, 251 East Main Street. I live downtown in the CBD, and I talk to customers all the time. I'm in the streets all the time. And you always see them touching the racks when they come through. And if there's an issue, we just need to police it. But it is, I love, Victor, your, idea. Do an ordinance. Let's get through this season. We're on top of it. I mean, the first rack came out, I don't know, Friday, I guess, on the streets already. And it's up against the wall, but people look at it. So for this year, let's just do an ordinance, leave it so that they can have time to plan for that.
Anyone else? Right.
Cora Smithly, 383 Peacock Road and 108 East Third Street. I own Little Traverse Tile Works. I have a outdoor display. I've had it since I started my business here in 2021. I second what Gail says. I think half the businesses on the list that I had sent Victor an email are year-round businesses. All of our income comes from the city that supports us, our families, and our employees. So for my business, the past 2 years, 2 summers, is $3,000 has come from my outdoor display. So that's a lot of money for me. That's a lot of money for my business. It's a lot of money that goes to my employees, that goes directly back into the city. So I think letting the DDA and the planning commission talk about it some more would be a great opportunity. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sure.
So
Anyone want to start?
I think it's a good solution.
I think that's a good solution. I'm not clear exactly administratively how we're handling it, but
We'd allow it for this, if we do the administrative ordinance, we would allow it to happen this summer the way it's happening now. And then the planning or the DDA would look at it and come up with some suggestions for going forward,
okay.
I believe is.
Yeah, so usually in administrative ordinance, we put a hard end date. So, it's an ordinance that is temporary in nature. So if, you choose September 15th, I'll just pick a date, right? September 15th. After September 15th, if the planning commission or council and DDA have not come up with a solution, it's just no longer allowed. So we either have to extend that administrative ordinance, or hopefully the DDA or planning commission would have a recommendation to council by then. So we can either put it back in the zoning code, or you can put it in the city code too. So there's two different ways of looking at it.
Okay.
Rick DeBlasio, 636 Harrison. The end of season sidewalk sales are really important. They're very well attended. If you would decide not to permit regular ongoing display of goods, you should maybe consider a certain sell-through period around Memorial Day, maybe in the ski season or whatever, when that option would be available for weekends for one or two or whatever. Not go from open display to no display would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Well,
I'll add that one of the things that I talked with Jeff about is doing more regular enforcement to make sure that display of goods downtown are indeed keeping a 6-foot clearance path. So we want to make sure that the current business owners that have these outdoor displays are following the rules that we have. And a lot of our zoning is driven by complaint base. So but I think we could use a more proactive approach for this issue, a couple other issues when we do have time, as time allows. So.
any more discussion? I think motion that we do an administrative ordinance to allow outdoor display of goods through October 31st.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. All right, and now the zoning code. Guess we'll open it up to public comment. There's a 3-minute time limit. Sure that's why you're all here. Who wants to go first?
Does everybody come up front?
Oh, yeah, we'd like you to come up to the podium. And I'll give you a little tap at 30 seconds to let you know you're getting close to the end. Anyone want to start? Come on.
Here's your chance.
All right.
Hi, my name is Karen Opfield. Is there anything I can say tonight that will make you change your minds? That's my question. The proposed zoning, the proposed ordinance for the PUDs and the PDs is an overhaul of the zoning ordinance. This is from an expert that I contacted. They said it had a clear intent to give the developers an avenue to shortcut the requirements of the zoning code. It says it's going to solve a problem, but it's being solved now in the variance procedures of the current zoning. We didn't know much about the PUDs, the PDs when we first started. And I guess the last sentence that says it could lead to scattershot development throughout the city, notwithstanding promises to advance development in accordance with the city's master plan. So to us as a community, it's sort of an unknown change in the zoning code. So we have to ask if the community has been given enough time, enough discussions, and enough town halls to understand. And the fight, it's not the mayor's fault, but the fact at fault was that the community was not properly engaged at the beginning. I don't believe that the city manager understands that digital communication from City Hall is new and generally unused by most of our population. We now have a community that's engaged. And so what I'd like to say is let's start here and let's start over. Please, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council tonight, please care about us, the town of Harbor Springs that elected you, and to the Planning Commission. We know you're mad. You're mad at us, but we could work all together and help the community to get this stalled proposal zoning and bring the entire community back to the table. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'd like to speak to you as an architect here in town. Been practicing here for about 30 years. Oh, Mark Boudet, 924 South Lampkin. Thank you. And I worked for decades with the old zoning ordinance. And it was always a chore. It was, you know, it was put together with good intentions, but a lot of Band-Aids had been put on it over the years. And so that was one of the things that sort of started this whole process, was getting it organized and modernizing it to today's planning standards. And as an architect, I feel it's very successful at that. It's well organized, it's black and white. It's not as subjective as the old zoning ordinance was. And to me, it's a huge improvement on what we had. Thank you.
Well. Get you next.
Wayne Davis, 476 4th Street. My only comment is that in the past, we've had a couple of very contentious arguments with city council over the Deer Park, parking meters, a couple other things. They all went to a vote and then annihilated any opposition to it afterwards. The voters got to pick what they live by. And I think in this case, the voters ought to be given the same opportunity to pick what ordinances they live by. And that's it. Thank you.
I have just a point of order, not an opinion. Can we quickly explain what each of those dot points actually mean in terms when we say removal of triplexes in the RW area? I don't understand, I'm sorry, what those are. So maybe the city man could quickly.
All right, so removal of triplexes from the residential waterfront district. There's a few residential districts in the proposed code before the code you see before you. Triplexes were allowed as a special use in the RN and the RW district. At the last council meeting, council removed triplexes from being allowed in the RW district. The next one is requiring home occupations to have administrative committee review. I believe in the proposed, before we made these changes, the proposed code was just to have them by right with just a zoning administrator review. In this recent proposal, the most updated version of the code, it's administrative committee, which is about, it's not quite planning commission review level, but it's an intermediary between Is there,
What are they reviewing?
whether the home occupation is, I guess fits with the,
Meets the
meet
standard.
the standards in the code for it. They changed the minimum dwelling size back to 864 square feet, so there was in the proposed code before, there was a 560 square feet minimum dwelling size, and now they put that to 864 square feet. They removed flag lots from the zoning code. For the central business district, they allowed 2 stories with a projecting elevator enclosure, and then 3 stories with a 3rd story setback 8 feet. And I believe there was a visual that you guys looked at that helped demonstrate what that would look like. And then they removed outdoor display of goods, which we just heard from earlier. And there was, of course, changes prior to that at the planning commission level too. I don't know, John or Jeff, if you want to further explain or expand on any of these changes.
I think you covered it.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Garen Goppigan, 6975 Houston Road. The 3-story buildings with the 8-foot setback, does that mean that there could be a deck on that 3rd story that looks onto Main Street, for instance? Or does that mean the building has to be set back 8 feet, no deck, structure, anything in front of it? And if you haven't thought of that, I think we need to put that language in.
We did think of it, and there is language that governs that. Existing, we have the idea of people wanting rooftop decks. So it does take that into consideration. They would be able to put up a small railing on top of the 2nd story, but the building, any structure above would have to be set back 8 feet.
So for the record, it just adds more. I know you're saying there's no structure there, but then there could be glass railing. If you're gonna try to do what the whole idea of the setback is, which is not make it a wall, I would suggest you not have that at a minimum. I'm not a fan of a 3rd story to begin with, but making it a deck just adds more living space, structure, and it kind of defeats the purpose of what you're saying you're trying to do.
That's actually not a change from the existing zoning code. The
Yeah,
existing zoning code permits a 2nd story or a 3rd story rooftop
Right,
deck.
and I'm against that, and that was a recent change, right? We were at 30 feet, then you went to 42, then you went to 50, now we're saying go back to 42, but I just, my opinion, I don't think that's a good idea.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Been a landowner here since 88, taxpayer since 88. On a vote for my first time this year in November, so we moved our homestead. I rise for 4 reasons. There's 800 plus petitions against this rezoning. Is there a single petition in favor? And do we ignore the 800? And there's more time, it might be 1,000. But at some point, do we just ignore there's 800 people that are very, very, very vocal about this? The overlay districts. I'm not a zoning specialist, but it seemed like we screwed up on the first plan, the master plan, and now we'll fix it by fixing the ag district and the place I live on Bay Street, but with an overlay that could be turned over in a week with somebody's administrative decision. Let's just do it right. In spite of the 800 petitions, my view is that there's about 3 people in the whole city that are in favor of this. And you might know who they are in this room. But yet it's taking the whole city into conflict over this. There's not like several hundred people that are in favor of this, it's 3 people. And then as an Irishman, very importantly, Irishman. When I leave here tonight, I'll go to one of our local favorite places, maybe Matt's. And if I sit at the bars at the table, the waitresses, the waiters, And the bartenders will tell you that from their word of mouth, what they hear, there's 10 people against us for every one in favor. So please listen to the people. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. I'm gonna play a little bit off of what Tim just said, and well, I'm not married to Tim. He said it was over 800. I'm gonna give you the exact number, Tim. 888 signers of the protest petition. So we dropped off Nick today. He graciously accepted them. This is 888 people. They may not be city property owners, but they live in the township and they pay the taxes. So part of these people are protesting this. It's a legal petition. And the protest petition, I'm not a lawyer, states that the signers have to represent 20% of the acreage of the city. So as of today, we have 320 valid signatures representing 22% of the city acreage. So we did it. It is now a legal petition, and there is legal implications associated with this petition. Again, playing off Tim and Karen. Let's see, the March 18th city council meeting had 688 views on YouTube. People are listening, people are learning. The last one had 722 views. That was the May 6th meeting. People are worried, people are scared. They're trying to educate it. So I plead with everybody in front of me and behind me to slow this down. Let's relook it, let's rework it together. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Wendy Reed, 539 East Bluff Drive. We, the citizen property owners who invested in Harbor Springs, keep
Can you
asking,
speak up?
who are you rezoning us for? None of us have asked to be rezoned, at least not enough of us to form the majority that you would be working in behalf of. 888 people have signed the petition. 320 of them are property owners within the city limits, requesting that you either delay the proposals or put it on the November ballot. This is 25% of the voters in the city of 1,205 registered voters. I'm sorry that a group of you have been working on the RRC since 2019, and another group have been working on rezoning us for 24 months. While you state that the rezoning has nothing to do with the RRC, in reading the RRC Best Practices Handbook, page 7 states, zoning is a key tool for plan implementation. Obsolete zoning regulations can discourage development and investment. Outdated regulations can force applicants to pursue rezoning or variance requests, thus extending project timelines, increasing costs, and creating uncertainty. Communities should look to streamline requirements and regulate for the kind of development that is truly desired. Zoning should be used to shape inviting, walkable, vibrant communities rather than inhibit them. It appears to the opposers of the rezoning proposals that the changes are being done only to aid outside development. This is a fact that has been pointed out multiple times, and the proponents continue to deny. Yet the denials do not offset the appearance that is being done to attract development. Stating that is being done to align with the zoning codes with the master plan is also unsupportable. I cannot name anyone who contributed to the formulation of this plan. I've been told that it was posted on the bulletin board of the IGA, and I contend that that is a very pro forma effort to seek this community's input. If indeed you had wished to seek total citizen input into the master plan, you have all of our addresses as evidenced by the twice yearly arrival of our property tax statements. And while you are citing the massive time and effort put into this by several groups, you suffer the pushback you are now receiving because of the practically non-existent attempts to seek our contributions. And you are ignoring the time that the left out citizens have invested in learning about the proposals, reading documents, and attending meetings. I consider that entire argument useless and a draw. After tonight, I will no longer spend any time researching anything regarding the rezoning proposals. You've had your chance to educate the public, and in my opinion, most of your arguments were nonsensical fails, trying to fit square pegs in round holes. If you are truly interested in engaging this community in rezoning, I challenge this city council to end any attempts to qualify Harbor Springs for the RRC program. Then we will be able to address our zoning comfortable in knowing who it is for. You have received so much pushback from your fellow tax-paying property owners that to continue to ignore our concerns and ram the zoning proposals through is tantamount to political suicide. I invite this city council to act on behalf of the people that elected them, and I specifically challenge rezoning us from a minimum lot width of 64 feet to 52 feet. That is tantamount to crack housing. Thank you.
Oops. All right.
Want me to approach or let me do this from here? Approach.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, I tried.
Lisa can reach it up.
All right, 3 minutes, sir.
Never was a sprinter. Thank you very much. My name is James Cassidy. We reside at 493 Harrison. I've been to a number of meetings, council meetings, the zoning and ordinance board that's working on this. And city council meetings go back to 24 months ago when the council started addressing revenue shortfalls. And I was shocked that night how we first started looking at how can we raise revenues? It wasn't a matter of how can we do some cost containment and cost reduction. We went right to where can we raise revenues? And I made that point that night, and it was clear, well, we're gonna do that after we talk about the opportunities to enhance revenue, which again, not many families that pay the taxes or businesses that run anywhere can usually get away with that. They've got to find something they can cut, something that's no longer value, something that doesn't help with the revenues and the profits, keep them sustainable for the long term. I think some of these changes we're talking about proposing tonight for the redevelopment of this community are about revenues. The biggest thing is they've been at this for about 2 years on the rezoning. Is that right? On the development, your committee? We saw tonight how it's been 14 years to get the TIFA situation sorted out. The house that the harbor master runs with the laundry proposal and bathrooms, that's been a decade in the works. You pointed that out yourself here tonight, Matt. I'm not suggesting we should be that slow to get things done, but I don't know the reason why we need to rush this done in 24 months when people from out of town that are property owners have not had a proper venue and opportunity to be a part of the discussion and learn about it. I don't know why we're rushing. Is there some reason that we need to get this done tonight? No? You don't know? I mean, there is or there isn't.
So we can get on with our regular business.
Well, I propose the city's gonna go on and we're all gonna get tax bills in December. And the city's gonna run just fine. Anybody that wants a development can approach for a variance, There's no reason to rush this through. We found tonight that the shopkeepers were given a courtesy. We're gonna get through this year and we'll come back and talk about that. We're not gonna force them to take that part of their economic opportunities off of their opportunities and afford them a living. We're gonna give them some time. I think it's only reasonable we express and give the people who live out of state, out of town, the same time and consideration to learn about this. Have you pitch it to them in a town hall? And then maybe you take it up for a vote amongst the members elected here tonight. Or as stated earlier, maybe put it on a ballot. But I strongly encourage you to not move on this tonight. Thank you.
Well,
Napper Helen Birchwood. There's something about this I just don't understand. Where did the zoning come from? Who wrote this? And how long has this been written? And was this written just for our beautiful town of Harbor Springs? Is this But then I look at triplex and I think, triplex on waterfront. Somebody didn't write this zoning for us. That would never be, we would never have that. But for some reason, I know we're gonna lose this because it's all decided, it's gonna be voted on tonight. But there's something screwy about this zoning, where it's come from, how it doesn't fit us, how we don't want it, but we're gonna give it anyway. I don't get it.
Linda Rockwitz, 519 East Third Street. And I rise to ask you to pass this zoning ordinance tonight. I know I'm in the minority of this audience, but I'm very involved in city government and our city. And I believe this entire thing has been done transparently, with every opportunity for anybody who can get on Zoom to attend. And I think taking more months and more weeks and carrying on will not change any minds. The former speaker said something screwy. There is so much misinformation out there now that it doesn't make sense. To me, the misinformation. Someone told me the other day, I live on 3rd Street, that 3rd Street's going to become Main Street. That's what this ordinance is going to do. So I ask you to pass this ordinance. It is a living document. It can be amended. Then if people want to put the time into focusing on the individual parts of the ordinances, let's have those discussions. But please, pass it tonight.
Patrick Kenny, 134 Bay Street, paying taxes since 1987. This is what I don't understand, is those that are in favor of it don't explain why it's good for us. And I don't have an understanding, or no one is explaining, none of you are explaining why specifically these zoning changes are gonna be good for Harbor Springs. You tell me not to worry, you tell me not to think about what could happen, but you don't tell me why it's good. And furthermore, I've done every bit of reading I possibly can in terms of the city minutes, in terms of the council minutes, in terms of planning commission minutes. I cannot find an explanation for why it makes sense to increase the downtown business district. Explain it. You won't. And here's the problem, and you all know it. You're gonna increase storefronts. That's gonna increase rent. That's gonna ring out vacancies. It's gonna push out the current merchants that are sitting here that we all try to provide benefits to. You're gonna have more blight as a result of bringing on more storefronts that's not gonna have nearly the occupancy that it needs to support itself and to support those rents. I don't understand it. That's the biggest issue for me, is how is it make sense from a business downtown perspective to increase size where you're gonna have more storefronts that are gonna be vacant.
Well, hands up on the Zoom, I guess, go to that.
All right, Tim, you can unmute yourself.
This is Tim Fletcher Rice, 605 East Main Street. I fail to see where RRC does a thing for the people who are here already. In fact, it seems to be a way for the state and outside organizations to get their foot in our door. And that is not good for our small community. We have a hard time keeping people in, young families in here. They just can't afford it. We let developers come in, push this out into an even larger holiday resort. That's all we're gonna be. Atlantic City. Please, let's have a good look at this. Tell me, who rose the issue of RRC? Tell me, what do you think it's going to do for us? Because I can't see anything except to let people have a foot in the door. Thank you.
Warner? Please make sure to state your name and your address. I think Tim cut out last time, so.
Okay, thank you. It's Warner Brown, 19 Beach Road or Drive. I'm not clear. It seems to me that there's always a push to do things in Harbor Springs because Charlevoix did it, or Petoskey did it, or Sheboygan did it. Those are very different places than Harbor Springs. Harbor Springs is basically a dead end on 119. It's a tiny town, and the planning and zoning needs to be really tight in a small community like this. The by right issue is a problem. If anything, that needs to be tighter in a small community like this. And I get individual rights. I'm all for that. That's great, except in a small community where everybody has tight neighbors and you're basically agreeing to give up some of your rights. So I don't open a gas station on Beach Drive. But that's my only comment. Thank you.
Council?
Again, Rick DeBlasio, 636 Harrison. You know, I've been coming up here for 35 years, started by boat and then eventually was able to buy. The one thing I've noticed, and we're in Grand Rapids, so getting here and back is not very difficult. But this is a 6-week town. We've got to be careful what we're going to get stuck with here. There are at least a half a dozen or more storefronts empty at the start of summer every year. They're out there now. And they'll get taken over. Some may make it, some won't. Somebody else will go out of business. This season starts July 4th and it ends the middle of August when school starts. Everybody that's got a business knows how those crowds and numbers change. Putting more pressure on the commercial side of downtown by creating more of that. You've got to be really careful about what you're asking for. Because those investors, they'll get the money from their banks and they'll do their thing and they'll build their buildings and they'll be done. But the poor city and the people supposed to occupy, they're gonna have a struggle. It's been repeated year after year after year. This is the most beautiful place in the world, but it's a 6-week season. Thank you.
Laura Smith, wait for it through HECOG. I just want to address that. While yes, we do have a very awesome 6-week season where we make a lot of money. We do live here year round and we do have to deal with year round things. We have to pay employees year round and there are a lot of businesses that stay open year round. We have a Christmas season, we have a fall season, we have the people that go up to tunnel of trees because it isn't a dead end town. So there is lots more than just the 6 weeks. It's definitely our busiest season and there's a huge influx, but we're trying to make it work for all the rest of the months of the year, so. Thank you.
Anyone else? Last chance. know. Just this once.
I'm Becky Backus, 500 West Summit. In front of our house, we have a gravel pit that was just sold on the corner of Sargent and Summit. There's 5 lots that have been designated or surveyed in this former gravel pit. And it was listed at 1.1 million. I don't know what it sold for, but it did sell. But if we say it sold for $1 million and put 5 houses in there, that's $200,000 a lot. Plus the house. And that's gonna be one of these little developments like Zoll Street. And there's a lot of people that don't like the Zoll Street community. But who's gonna buy those houses? 1,000 square foot house at $400 a square foot, which I'm told is pretty reasonable, is $400,000 plus the lot. So we don't, low cost housing, which is part of this project. I mean, I don't understand the math.
Else? Okay. You think, Dan, anything else we want to talk about, change?
I really haven't heard anything new tonight. I've heard, excuse me.
Yeah, let's try and control ourselves back
Excuse me.
there.
I have emails full, many, many, many letters, and I've sat through many, many, many meetings, and I have listened. I do understand some of the concerns, but I do think this is a good plan. I think there have been compromises made. I think I hear a lot from folks how this is just a summer town. I take offense at that, like Cora. This is a year-round town. Our business goes on year-round. That's part of our job up here, is to make sure our business goes on year-round. So I haven't heard anything that is going to make me change my mind. I know it's my turn.
Could you please explain why?
No,
No,
I can't.
public comment is over, sir.
I understand that,
No.
but nope, you're still not explaining
Mr.
why.
Kenny,
Mr.
I'm
Kenny,
not
no.
going to.
Relax, Matt, relax.
So that's where I'm coming from on it. It's not that I haven't heard your concerns. It's not that people aren't important to me and property owners aren't important to me, but I think this is a good plan for the city of Harbor Springs. So that's where I'm coming from on it.
Please, check the May, let's see, maybe the May 8th edition of the Harbor Light I've listed. There were approximately 7 reasons why I support this.
I read it.
Thank you.
He needs.
That's for everybody. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I'm in support. This has been vetted and discussed by all the people in town that live here and work here and have gone through these issues time and again. I've listened to lots of the discussions. I've also read over 700 of the identical email that I have received, and none of which gave me much of a clue as to what the real issue is for them. This plan is well constructed. It's well-written. I believe that it covers all the issues that we can think of. If there are things that have been missed, and I understand no plan is perfect. But I believe that this plan is a good one, and we need to proceed with it.
Yes.
Point of order, will anybody be recusing themselves?
Well, no reason for anyone to recuse themselves. So I've, we've gone through this process for a couple years. The old zoning code didn't work very well. It was difficult for people who came here to build homes, that wanted to build homes. The new code is going to simplify that for the users of Harbor Springs. It's a well thought out plan. It can be changed in the future. There's lots of ways to control the development that you're also afraid of, or some of you are so afraid of. I don't think it's going to be a drastic change to the community. A lot of people have fed a lot of misinformation to people, and it hasn't been helpful. And I think we're going to proceed. In fact, I'll make a motion that we move forward with proposed zoning code and ordinance.
We need a motion to adopt ordinance for the zoning code and adopt ordinance 439.
Right. I'll make that motion.
Have a second.
You're just.
I have a motion on the table by Kara, second by Ron Bell, to approve the proposed zoning code and move ordinance 439. I'll do a roll call. Nancy Rondell.
Yes.
Michael Behrman.
Yes.
Kathy Macho.
Yes.
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
And Matt McGarrett.
Yes.
Motion carried.
It's a pure disgrace.
All right, city manager report. So I think Judd Hill retaining wall, the actual wall is built, you've probably seen it. The road should hopefully be open in the next week or so. But June 1st is technically the deadline, so. As I mentioned earlier, the intersection of 3rd and State Street, where the water leak occurred, that's been repaid. And we did receive deposit from the FOIA request. So we'll be working on that FOIA request that we received from our Maureen Kennedy. We do have a significant increase of users through our email notices. We have about 267 people signed up for that now. So that's been on for about 2 years now. So it's great that more people are signing up to get email notifications. People are signed up for Text My Gov communications. We do have about over 2,300 followers on Facebooks. It's also a good way to get information across. We have Instagram, YouTube account. As you met, people have mentioned they're watching our videos. So I'm glad that people are going to YouTube to watch and rewatch our meetings. So we have several meetings a month, and it's great to sometimes even for us to go back and get points of clarification when we have those videos online. May 8th, the DDA met. They discussed the TIF capture agreement, as I mentioned earlier. They also discussed wayfinding, directories, and 3rd Street lights. Harbor Commission did discuss or heard about the Harbor Master building renovations. They also reviewed some commercial and charter license applications, and of course, Fort Park fixes. The RRC committee continued its discussions on preparation of an economic development strategy. Bluff Stability Committee heard from Ben Beeling, our city arborist, on best practices for vegetation management on the bluff, and also they received an update from our DPW director, Lucas Van Der Zee, on soil stability and mechanics course that he took, which was pretty insightful. And finally, the tree board discussed tree plantings for their street tree plan and 119 at Harborview Park, and also they began planning for Arbor Day Fest. I just had a few meetings of note. CCE 911, we met, they're going to be hiring an executive director, so we're doing interviews this week for that position. I also spoke and answered questions at the Emmett Association of Realtors at their luncheon at Bayview Inn alongside the city manager at Petoskey, Shane Horn. So that was a good event. I do want to just make also a few points of clarification. I know it's a lot of these residents have left, but for the master plan process, we did mail out a link to the surveys during the master plan process 2021. So we sent a mail to everyone to take those master plan surveys. So voter or non-voter, if you own rent property in the city, they receive that link to take the survey. The first survey had like 400 respondents, but as we got to the 12th survey, fewer and fewer people took it. That's just the nature of people getting tired of answering so many questions in the surveys. But we did have quite a bit large response for some of those surveys. And there was a vote at the Deer Park, but there was no vote on parking meters. That was a council decision. And yeah, that's all. I say the RRC, yes. The previous city manager and previous DDA director, Rachel Smolinski, they first began discussions of the RRC being involved in 2017. They started attending courses, and the DDA eventually recommended the council to engage in the RRC in 2019. So that was the process. So it was been going on, at least we've been thinking about it since 2017. So it's been a while. And the reason for that is we go through old minutes and emails and correspondences from previous city manager. It was partly because they got notification that the MEDC was no longer going to just give grant money to just any community, that you had to be engaged in the program to receive grant money. And the grant money is for infrastructure projects, not just necessarily private projects, but infrastructure. If we want to do something on our streets, our sidewalks, parks. So yeah, and just a few points of clarification there.
Yeah. Any more old business? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.